Let's get a weather update on the conditions around Australia at the moment with James Preston from Sky News Weather. James, what's the latest?
Yeah, good morning, Holly. Plenty of wet weather still floating around the east coast of Australia. Yesterday in Canberra, we saw storms popping off around the Kingston area towards the glassworks, but still not a great deal of wet weather falling in the gauge itself. If we take a look at the satellite imagery so far this morning, you can see there's a little bit of cloud coverage floating across last night. That does continue into this morning, but not so thick throughout the east coast where we have seen plenty of activity across the past week or so. So just recapping some of those totals up until 9 a.m. so far. Brisbane, 65 millimetres, Canungra 83, the Gold Coast picking up 27 up in the northeast, Lismore collecting 20. Not a great deal falling for the likes of Sydney. We certainly saw some stormy activity happening a little further west, but for the harbour city itself, didn't get a drop. So really, we did see a bit of a mix of conditions. Wollongong, 5.4 millimetres in the Shoalhaven, Nowra picking up 2 and down towards the border, 31 millimetres there. Now, outside of that, certainly a lot of activity for the southeast of Queensland that we are seeing so far this morning. Now, it hasn't quite crept in towards Brisbane city itself, still very much floating on the coastline. So that could unfold in the coming hours. And these red shadings here, that's indicative of potentially heavy rainfall, maybe even a bit of hail. Probably a little bit too early for hail to be falling though. Through New South Wales, what we are watching is this little system just floating off the coast here. Now, if that tracks inland, we could get some pretty decent storms, but as it stands, Sydney only looking to get maybe a millimetre or two throughout the day. Seeing how things are unfolding for the rest of Sunday as well. Showers on the forecast for the northeast of Tasmania. Much of Victoria also being inundated by wet weather throughout the day. And as we head into the afternoon, really seeing a fair bit of wet weather across the bulk of New South Wales, even stretching to inland locations like the southern tablelands and further west towards the likes of Orange and Dubbo as well. And of course, we are watching for the southeast of Queensland. Fair bit still to come here. And we could see some pretty heavy falls once more for Lismore. Now, often that area is just hammered by flooding concerns. At the moment, there aren't any, but we will be watching for that throughout the day as well. Now, speaking of a storm risk, there is certainly the chance of it occurring in the yellow, a little bit more likely for the locations in the red, and that continues all the way into the afternoon, stretching from Tasmania all the way through to Queensland on the east coast, and then also parts of the Kimberley and the Pilbara out for WA. Away from the storms and all the wet weather, plenty of heat also building throughout central locations throughout the country, and then certainly into western parts of Queensland. So a low intensity heat wave in the white. In the yellow, we're looking at a severe level, and then in the orange, that's our extreme level heat wave. So that's day and night, very uncomfortable conditions. And of course, our heat map here showing just how hot it's going to get. In the red there, that's in excess of 40 degrees, and that is also pushing through parts of New South Wales and into South Australia as well. And just lastly, taking a look at the forecast for the rest of Sunday. We do have showers for much of the coastline around the southeast of Queensland. Brisbane could pick up 35 millimetres. Shower or two on the way for Sydney, and then storms forecast for Canberra, Melbourne, Hobart, above average temperatures for Adelaide, Perth just below the average, and the chance of a shower for Darwin with the top of 34, Holly.
Wonderful, James. Thanks for that. We'll see you soon.